The money didn't just fall, it hit the table. A sharp slap of bills smacking wood, followed by the cold, arrogant voice of the man who threw them. "Here," he said, "for your effort." The diner went silent. Forks paused midair. Coffee cups froze halfway to lips. Everyone turned. And there he was. Adrian Cole, $43 billion to his name, CEO of half the city, a man who thought power made him untouchable. He didn't look at the waitress as a person. He looked at her like an inconvenience, a mistake he wanted to pay away. Except the waitress didn't move, not to take the money, not to thank him. She just stared at him, calm, steady, unmoving. Her name tag read Noor, a soft name, a gentle name, but nothing about her eyes was soft. She picked up the stack of cash he'd slammed on the table, slowly, gracefully, as if she were handling something filthy. She didn't count it, didn't look impressed, didn't tremble. Instead, she held it between two fingers and set it right back in front of him. The entire diner gasped. Adrian's smirk faded. "I believe you dropped this," Noor said quietly. His jaw tightened. "That wasn't a mistake. It's for you." She shook her head. "No, it isn't." He leaned back, amused despite himself. "Is this where you pretend you're too proud to accept money?" "No," she said simply. "This is where I tell you the truth." She placed her hand gently on the cash and pushed it an inch toward him. "Your salary comes from me." The room froze. Even the air stopped moving. Adrian blinked once. "Excuse me?" Noor's expression didn't change. "You run your billion-dollar empire from a building owned by Patel Holdings, right?" He stiffened. "Yes," he said slowly. "My father owned Patel Holdings," she continued quietly. "And when he passed, everything came to me. The entire commercial portfolio." The diner whispered. Someone dropped a spoon. Adrian's arrogance wavered. Noor wasn't done. "You don't own your headquarters," she said. "You lease it. And your lease payments." She tapped the stack of bills he had thrown at her. "They come to me. Every month. Longer than you've been CEO." Adrian's throat bobbed. People stared at him. The billionaire who'd just thrown money at the woman who literally paid him his office space. He straightened. "You're lying." Noor pulled out a folded envelope from her apron pocket. Not dramatically, not arrogantly, just with calm certainty. She placed it in front of him. His company's lease renewal, signed by him last week, countersigned by her. The diner buzzed. A billionaire being schooled by a waitress. Not just a waitress. His landlord. Noor's voice remained soft. "You thought throwing money made you powerful." She stepped back. "But real power doesn't need to humiliate someone." For a long moment, Adrian didn't speak. He couldn't. His empire, every floor, every glass window, stood on land she owned. He was sitting there dripping with ego, and she was standing there holding all the cards. Finally, Noor picked up the cash again, placed it gently on his table, and said, "You don't pay me with arrogance. You pay through your lease." "You already do." Adrian swallowed hard. For the first time in a very long time, he felt small. "And Noor?" She turned away, calm as dusk, and walked back toward the counter, leaving the richest man in the city staring at his own reflection in the glass. A reflection that suddenly looked a whole lot poorer. Adrian didn't move for almost a full minute. Not a breath. Not a blink. The billionaire who never heard no in his life sat frozen with a stack of rejected bills staring back at him like a mirror he couldn't escape. Around him, the diner whispered in tiny shocked ripples. "That's the guy who owns Cole International." And she just, did you see her face? She didn't even flinch, nor ignored all of it. She slid behind the counter, refilled the coffee pot, and checked on a customer with the same calm she'd held while dismantling a billionaire. But her hands, they shook, just a little, just enough that she kept them tucked behind the counter, hidden from view. Because telling the truth wasn't easy, not after years of secrets, not after choosing a waitress apron over a corporate throne. But Adrian didn't know that. Not yet. He finally stood, slowly, unsteadily, as if the weight of his own pride made the air heavier around him. He walked toward the counter. Noor sensed him, but didn't look up. "I said I didn't want your money," she murmured, steady but quiet. Adrian cleared his throat. "T, that's not why I'm here." She set the coffee pot down gently. "And yet, here you are." Her voice wasn't mocking. It was tired. A woman who no longer had energy for men whose egos filled the walls before they did. Adrian breathed in deeply. Something strange happening inside him. A feeling he couldn't name. Humility. He wasn't used to it. It felt like swallowing glass. "You should have told me," he said quietly. Noor raised an eyebrow. Told you what? That you were. He gestured vaguely, hands unsure. Wealthy. She shook her head. That's not a part of my job description. It would have changed how I spoke to you. She finally met his eyes. Exactly, she said softly. That's why I didn't tell you. Her words hit him harder than the truth itself. Because she was right. He would have spoken differently, acted differently, pretended to care, pretended to respect her. Because he respected money, not people. She turned to grab a stack of plates. Do you want something else, Mr. Cole? He hesitated. Adrian. No. Her voice was quiet steel. What you did earlier doesn't earn that. He winced. She wasn't being cruel. She was being honest. He wasn't used to that either. Look, he said, lowering his voice even more. I shouldn't have thrown the money. I was frustrated. At me? She asked. No. He paused. At life. Noor finally turned fully toward him. And I was the easiest target. Adrian opened his mouth, then closed it. Because yes, she was. And hearing her say it hurt more than he expected. I don't want to be that man, he admitted quietly. Noor's expression softened. Barely, but enough that he noticed. So don't be, she answered. Simple. Surgical. Correct. He rubbed the back of his neck, uncomfortable in a way money couldn't fix. I didn't know Patel Holdings had a daughter, he tried, reaching for safer ground. You weren't meant to, she said. Why, he asked. Her voice dipped just above a whisper. Because after my father died, the board wanted someone ruthless. Someone like him. She looked down. I'm not my father. And, being a waitress, he asked gently. She paused before answering, as if checking whether he deserved the truth. It's the only place where people treat me like a human, she said. No pressure. No cameras. No shareholders. No bloodthirsty partners waiting for me to fail. A breath. And I like serving people. It makes me feel free. That stunned him. A billionaire heir, choosing a diner. His voice turned softer. You're trying to start over. I'm trying to breathe, she corrected. Before he could respond, her coworker called from the kitchen. Noor, order up. She nodded and began walking away. But Adrian's voice stopped her. Noor, he said. She turned slowly. He swallowed, pride bending in a way it never had before. I'm sorry. Those words, they didn't sound forced, or rehearsed, or strategic. They sounded human. For a long second, she just looked at him, really looked at him, as if trying to measure the truth in his eyes. Then she nodded once. Thank you. She turned back toward her tables. But Adrian didn't leave. He sat back down, quietly, humbly, like a man reevaluating the ground under his feet. He didn't know why, but something about Noor made him want to be better, made him want to stay. Because for the first time in years, someone had seen right through him. Not the billionaire, not the headline, not the power, just the flawed, tired man underneath. And instead of running, she stood her ground. Adrian picked up the untouched money and slid it back into his wallet. Suddenly disgusted by the way he'd thrown it like a weapon, the diner settled. Noor worked. His chest tightened. Because somehow, without meaning to, he needed her forgiveness more than anything money could buy. And for the first time in his life, money wasn't enough. Adrian stayed long after his plate went cold. He didn't touch his coffee, didn't check his phone, didn't bark orders at assistants or glare at anyone who approached. He just sat there, hands clasped, shoulders tight, watching Noor move through the diner with the quiet grace of someone who'd walked through storms but never let them steal her softness. She refilled a mug, tied a kid's shoelace, listened to an elderly couple talk about their day. No judgment, no rush, no entitlement, just presence. And something inside Adrian, something he'd buried under money, pride, and 10 years of ruthless business, shifted, or cracked. He wasn't sure. When Noor finally came to wipe a table near him, she didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge him, didn't offer him even a polite smile. She treated him like any other customer, like he wasn't a billionaire, like he wasn't important, like he was simply someone who'd hurt her. And that unfamiliar ache in his chest pulsed harder. He cleared his throat. Noor. She didn't look up. What is it, Mr. Cole? He winced at the distance in her tone. Can we talk? She glanced at him then, a quick, cautious flick of her eyes. And for a moment, he thought she might agree. But she shook her head. I have work. He nodded, accepting the answer he deserved. But then she sighed, softly, and placed the cloth down. 2 minutes, she said quietly. Nothing more. He stood quickly, almost too quickly. They stepped aside near the window, the lamplight catching her dark eyes, turning them warm and sharp all at once. Noor crossed her arms. Say what you need to say. Adrian opened his mouth, then hesitated, because what he needed to say wasn't the polished, logical speech he'd rehearsed in his head. It was messy and real. I wasn't angry at you, he finally said. I was angry at my morning. She didn't soften. She didn't attack either. People have bad mornings, she said. They don't all throw money at strangers. He nodded. You're right. She waited. He exhaled, long, slow, like he was peeling off armor he'd worn for years. I got a call at 6 a.m., he said. My board wants to force me out. They think I'm losing my edge. They think I've gotten softer. A slight frown formed between Noor's brows. He continued. My divorce is in the news again. They dug up old interviews, old photos. They're saying I'm unstable. His voice tightened. And my father's anniversary was this morning. Noor's eyes shifted. Just barely. My father taught me everything, Adrian whispered. And I keep disappointing the man who isn't even here to judge me anymore. Noor's arms loosened their tension. Adrian swallowed. So I walked in here trying to feel in control. A pause. And I took it out on you. No sugarcoating. No excuses. No billionaire ego. Just truth. Noor's gaze softened, slightly, cautiously. You're carrying a lot, she said quietly. He nodded. And none of it is your fault, he said. I know that. But I still made you pay for it. Her expression shifted. Pain, frustration, understanding, all tangled together. You hurt me, she said honestly. You made me feel small. He closed his eyes, breathing through the guilt. I know. And I haven't felt small in a long time, she whispered. I fought hard for that. His eyes snapped open. Noor looked away, but not fast enough. He heard the truth in her voice. He saw it in the way she straightened her shoulders like she was remembering a different life, one where she'd been powerless. One day, she said quietly, when people heard my last name, they bowed. They were afraid. They wanted something. Adrian swallowed. And now, she said, people think I'm poor. They think I'm insignificant. They think they can throw money at me, and I should be grateful. Her voice broke, not loudly, but in the softest, most devastating way. Adrian stepped closer, carefully. Noor. She wiped a small tear with the back of her hand, almost angrily. I used to measure my worth by what I owned, she whispered. I won't do that again. Silence settled between them. Soft, tender, painful. Adrian's voice lowered. I wasn't trying to break you. You didn't, she said simply. But you reminded me of the world I walked away from. He nodded slowly. And you reminded me of the man I don't want to be anymore. She looked up. Their eyes held for a long moment. Two people from opposite worlds, both hiding wounds behind very different kinds of armor. Then Noor said something he didn't expect. Sit down, Adrian. Finish your meal. He blinked. That's it, he whispered. For now, she said. Forgiveness isn't a moment. It's a process. He breathed out. Heavy, relieved, humbled. And what about us talking again? He asked carefully. Noor's lips curved. Not quite a smile, but a small, thoughtful shift. We'll see, she murmured. That depends on the man who walks out of this diner, not the one who walked in. She turned back to her tables. And Adrian, he walked back to his seat. Quiet, changed, and for the first time in years, willing to try. Adrian stayed long after the lunch rush ended. The diner slowly emptied. Chairs scraped back. Coffee mugs clinked into the sink. The neon sign outside flickered as dusk settled over the street. But Noor kept moving. Quiet, collected, graceful in that soft way people only are when they've rebuilt themselves from nothing. Every so often, her eyes drifted toward him, not with anger, not with fear, curiosity, measuring him. And Adrian didn't hide from it. For once in his life, he didn't want to. When she finally walked over with the last pot of coffee, she set it down at his table without a word. They stood facing each other. Two people who had peeled back layers they never meant to show. Two people who'd seen the worst in each other. And something better underneath. Noor, Adrian said softly. Can we talk? Properly this time? She didn't sit. But she didn't walk away either. I'm listening, she murmured. He nodded, breathing through the nerves that felt foreign coming from him. I know I can't erase what I did, he said. And I know an apology doesn't undo the humiliation I caused. Noor's expression softened, not forgiving, but listening. But I want to earn your respect, he continued quietly. Not with money, not with power. with something else. She tilted her head. And what's that? He hesitated, then said the words he hadn't said aloud in years. Humility. For the first time, Noor's lips curved into something faintly resembling a real smile. Humility looks good on you, she said gently. He chuckled softly. That's a first. She leaned against the booth, arms crossed loosely. So what do you want now, Adrian? He swallowed. Honesty. Always honesty now. I want to understand you, he said. I want to know the woman who chose an apron over an empire. Her eyes warmed, just a little. And I want to know, he added, why you walked away from a life most people would kill for. Her gaze drifted toward the window, toward the city skyline she once ruled over. When my father died, she said quietly, the company became a war zone. Everyone wanted control. Everyone wanted a piece. And every day, I felt myself shrinking. She traced the rim of a coffee cup with her finger. I had everything, she whispered. Money, power, status. She looked up. But no peace. No freedom. No joy. Adrian understood that more than she realized. And here, he asked. She exhaled. Here, no one cares about my name, or my inheritance, or my legacy. A soft smile touched her lips. Customers care if I bring their food warm and remember their birthday dessert. That's enough for me. Adrian's chest tightened, not with envy, but admiration. I've never known peace like that, he admitted. You could, she said simply. He blinked. How? Start by seeing people, she said. Not positions, not worth, not status. Her voice turned gentle. And see yourself too. Not the billionaire, just the man. Those words landed deeper than any boardroom threat ever had. He nodded slowly. What if I want to see you again? He asked carefully. And I don't mean as a customer. Noor paused. Her eyes softened, not hesitant this time, but thoughtful. Then that depends, she whispered, on whether you show up as the man I spoke to near that window, or the one who threw money at me. He swallowed. I'll show up as the first one, he promised. She nodded. Then we'll see. A quiet understanding passed between them. Not a promise, not an ending, not a beginning, just possibility. As she turned to walk away, he stopped her one last time. Noor. She looked back. He extended his hand, not in arrogance, not in charm, not in expectation, in sincerity. Thank you, he said softly, for not breaking when I tried to belittle you, and for reminding me who I don't want to become. Noor stepped closer. For a moment, she studied his hand, then gently placed hers in it. Just a touch. Just a moment. Just enough. You're welcome, Adrian, she whispered. And, thank you for listening. She slipped her hand away and headed toward the kitchen, her steps light. Adrian watched her go, something new settling in his chest. Not desire, not ego, not conquest. Respect. Real and rare. When he finally stepped outside, the evening air felt different. Cooler. Calmer. Like he'd left behind a version of himself he no longer wanted. And somewhere inside the warm diner behind him, a woman who walked away from power had just taught a billionaire how to stand like a human. If this story touched your heart, share it. Because kindness doesn't always wear a smile, and heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes, they walk in covered in dust, carrying stories that could change your heart forever.